Welcome to Hack Your Happiness.
I cared too much about what other people thought, and I really felt like my performance defined who I was. If I would have a bad workout or a bad race, my mental state was really bad.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks.
I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Anastasia.
Today we are speaking with Gwen Jorgensen.
When I was young, I was really passionate about swimming. And my coaches were like, "You're really good at running. Maybe you should try running." And I tried out for the track and field team and then won gold in 2016.
2016 triathlon Olympic gold medalist.
Gwen Jorgensen.
Gwen Jorgensen.
And the new Olympic champion in women's triathlon is Gwen Jorgensen of the USA.
What would you say was the moment where you felt the most amount of pressure? Was it in the preparing and training, or was it right at that moment when you were actually competing?
It was a weird feeling. I normally get very nervous before races.
What are your top 3 tips to stop self-sabotage?
I think the one thing that helped me the most was
You were told by one of your coaches that you had a fear of success. So could you tell us more about this?
I remember when my coach said that to me. It's a very vivid memory because I was shocked.
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Gwen.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us today. You are an absolutely iconic athlete, and we would love to get started. If you could tell us a bit about yourself and your backstory. How did you get to where you are today and decide to pursue the path that you're on?
When I was young, I was really passionate about swimming, and it was something for me that I was the only person in my family to do it. And that's really where my passion was. It's all I wanted to do in, grade school, middle school, high school. The more time I could spend in the water, the better. And I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I walked on their team and swam for them. Never made it to NCAAs or anything like that, but we would have dry land. And so we'd do like running drills and stuff before swimming. And my coaches were like, "You're really good at running. Maybe you should try running." And I tried out for the track and field team at Wisconsin. And within a year I was at the NCAAs for running. And so I switched to running, and then I got recruited into the sport of triathlon and went to the 2012 Olympics, and then won gold in 2016. And then, switched to marathons, had some kids, and I actually just switched back to triathlon again a few years ago.
Your listening truly means the entire world to Anastasia and I, and we would love to invite you to join the Happiness family, which is completely free, and that way you'll never miss another episode of Hack Your Happiness. You can join the family by following this podcast on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now.
That's amazing. It shows that, we can really try different things throughout our entire lives, and it's okay to, try this and find out that we're better at something, then go to that. I mean, it's totally okay. And I feel like as teens, we're oftentimes, we want to try new things, but we may be kind of scared. So throughout your journey of trying so many amazing, cool, different things, what has been your greatest challenge?
Oh boy, my greatest challenge, I would say, probably was when I was in high school, and I was just so obsessed with swimming, and I cared too much about what other people thought, and I really felt like my performance defined who I was, and that was really a hard thing for me, because if I would have a bad workout or a bad race, my mental state was really bad. And I noticed that, I wasn't happy because everything I felt like was built around just my performance. And so once I was able to mature and realize that I am more than Gwen, an athlete. I'm Gwen, a person, and also that what other people thought didn't matter. I think it's really hard, especially for teens this age with social media, to not care what other people think. But realizing that nobody knows the work that you're doing. Nobody knows what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, except for maybe, 2 to 5 people that are in your close circle. And so I think it's really important to not listen to the opinions of others that are outside of that circle, that really see what you're doing every day.
It's so powerful what you said there about seeing yourself outside of Gwen the athlete, because I think seeing yourself as, Mercedes the person, Gwen the person, Anastasia the person, like knowing that you're so multifaceted and you can have different interests and strengths and weaknesses, and no one thing defines you as a person is so essential, because, even if we're really passionate about art and then someone doesn't like our art or doesn't like our writing or doesn't think that we're a good athlete, we're going to be so crushed by that. But when you see yourself as like a person and you're kind of, you're exploring something, but it's okay if one day you don't want to explore it or pursue it any further, be it, friendship, or be it a career, or I don't know, a co-curricular or a hobby, we can really kind of feel more empowered because we know who we are on a deeper level. So I really like that.
Yeah, totally. And something that's really helped me with that is having a purpose and having a why. And so every year I sit down and I say, like, what are my values? What are my goals? What, and what do I want to get out of myself? And for me, it's like being bold, being brave, being a good role model for my kids. And like, those are the things that are important. And those are the things that lead me to my happiness.
I love that, focusing kind of on, all of those things, like being bold is so important, as well as, like just having that kind of mindset that, the overall goal and the overall intention that I'm putting out is so much more important than, one failure that I'm getting back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in the past, we've heard you speak about how when you were a high school student, you were told by one of your coaches that you had a fear of success. So could you tell us more about this fear? Because I think as teens, we can often relate to that feeling of being afraid of what happens if we do succeed.
Yeah, that's something I remember when my coach said that to me. It's a very vivid memory because I was shocked. I was taken aback, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And are you right? And so I really had to take a look at myself. And, I think the fear of success a lot of times is, are you going to go all in? And are you going to, really put everything out there? Are you going to say what your goals are openly and know that you might fail? That's something I've always been, at least recently in my professional career, I've been really bold and outgoing with saying what my goals are. And, I don't always achieve them. And that's something that is okay. And so I think, once I realized, like, it's okay to have big goals. It's okay to say what I want to do. It's okay to invest in what I'm doing, and know that even if I do everything right, I may not get the result I want.
Definitely. Like, we can feel really scared sometimes, especially like speaking out about what our goals are, because we feel like other people might judge us or other people will not agree with what we want to do.
Yeah, I think another thing is, especially for teens, is we think that if we do succeed, then we're kind of at a roadblock. Like, okay, great, I achieved this goal, but now I don't know, what am I working towards? What's my purpose? What is the why now? And so that can be something that I think sometimes we can even like subconsciously or unconsciously program or dream school, or, get a job, or, save up X amount of money, even something like really, really simple in the grand scheme of things. But when we actually go all in and like actually invest in ourselves and prioritize ourselves and our goal, then we're worried about what that might look like when we don't have that goal anymore. So I think it's true, like that having like a bigger why is also so important.
Totally, something that can like kind of help guide you along the way and really not make you put all of your energy on one goal, because then once you get there, it's like, okay, so like, what do I do now?
Yeah, and I think the enjoyment, right, it comes from trying to get that goal and from setting that goal and working hard. Like, it's really fulfilling to work super hard and know that you're going after something, and you can't, we can't predict the future, right? We never know what's going to happen. And so, yeah, saying those goals are scary because you can't predict if it's going to happen. And if you achieve your goal, it's amazing, but it's also really short-lived. It's this very short time period of, oh, I got it. And like you said, now what? And so I think it's really kind of learning to enjoy the process along the way, and to really have those goals around, what's my why? Why am I doing this? What are my values? And what do I want to get out of this?
When we're not even sure that we're aware of having this kind of fear of success. How do we identify it, and how did you identify, or how did your coaches help you identify that you have this fear of success?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think I was not aware of it, and it was a lot of, I think my coaches were, it was brought to their attention because when I was in high school, I would often in swimming be swimming faster in practice than at meets. And so we were taking a look at like, why is this happening? Like, why are you performing better when it doesn't matter, right? And I think that happens to a lot of, not a lot, but a fair few, especially younger teens, for instance. And it's, I think it's a lot of times it's scary, right? And like when no one's watching, I think a lot of times we're able to get more out of ourselves, whereas opposed to, especially when you're younger, at least for me as somebody who's introverted, like I didn't want people looking at me. I didn't really want people knowing how I was doing. And so it was kind of identifying that and figuring out, why do I feel that way? And how can and I think for me, the reason was like, I didn't want other people judging me based on my performance and my outcomes. And so for me, it was kind of overcoming that and realizing like what other people think of me isn't defining who I am. And also going back to like my mom and dad didn't care how I did, right? Like they were always going to love me. So like bringing more emphasis into the people that do matter into my life.
Oh, I love that so much. Like realizing that if people only value you for your goal or for, your specific skill or ability to do something, then they're really not actually a very good person to have in your life, because you want people who love you and want to hang out with you because of who you are.
Totally. And, being in the spotlight can be very difficult because it feels like you have a ton of pressure on you. And then additionally, if you've shared your goals, then it's like now everyone's looking at you to watch if you're achieving those goals. So it can be like another layer of pressure, which can definitely be hard as a teenager, especially who's introverted, to handle.
Yes.
So sometimes, like we've been saying, that fear of success and the pressures and uncertainty that it brings can lead to self-sabotage. Kind of like you said when you were not performing as well at the actual meets as you were during your training sessions. And so this kind of leads us to self-sabotaging, not performing our best, maybe not pursuing what makes us happy. What are your top 3 tips to stop self-sabotage?
My top 3 tips. I'm going to, I think the one thing that helped me the most was journaling. And in the journaling, I would every day write down things I did well. So me I would say I was an overachiever, type A, introvert, and it was very easy for me to find things that I could improve upon, right? So every day I'm like, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. And that was easy for me. But what was difficult was saying, you know what, I did this well, this well, this well, this well. And so I started to journal, and I would write down things that I did well every single day. And I remember at the start, it was like, I just could not think of things. I'm like, well, I drank water today and ate well. Like, it was like very simple things. And the better I got at it, the more I was able to really believe in myself and back myself. I had this, complete journal of every day. Look, I've been working towards my goal and I've been doing everything right? I've been, trying to achieve what I want to achieve. And I have this history now and knowing that I have done the work. And so that I would say was the biggest thing that really helped me overcome that.
I think that is so important, to be able to recognize the small wins. And I feel like we talk about this a lot on our podcast, but in general, like there's so much that like we've read about and that we've spoken about with other guests as well, like the science even behind focusing on the small good wins. Totally. Because as important as it is to be striving towards growth, if we're always just trying to grow, it's going to get like to a point where we just don't see a point because we achieve a goal, but we don't even celebrate that.
I love how you mentioned that then you would go back and look back over it and see, I have been growing, I have been doing good, rather than just focusing on like, I haven't been doing this well, and that can kind of lead to like spiraling. So instead you're like focusing, and then you can track your growth. And I'm a person, I love journaling. I find it's so nice to do, especially after like a stressful day. And it also is a nice way to be like very reflective, because you're able to kind of like analyze your day and notice like what were the high points, what were maybe the lower points. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm a big fan of journaling.
What I love to do is talk about what our small wins were like around the dinner table. I feel like maybe depending on, you know, how much of a reflective person someone is, it can vary, but that's what I love.
I'm going to bring that to my dinner table. I love that idea. Yeah.
It's a fun tradition.
Totally. And being an athlete is very vigorous, including training and the actual competition itself. And many teens are athletes, but even for those of us who just enjoy regular movement like Mercedes and I, and exercise, can you tell us how you stay healthy and take care of your body while training?
Yeah, I do a lot of mental preparation, I'd say. And so, a lot of times, especially if you work out, if you're a teen and you go to school all day, and then I remember I'd have swim practice late at night, come home, like rush to eat, do your homework, go to bed. And I think something that I could have really used back then that I do now is just some restorative breathing. And so it's just, slowing the breath down so that you're only taking about 4 or 5 breaths a minute. And it doesn't take long, like it takes about 5 minutes and you can reset your entire nervous system. And that's something for me that helps me get more restorative sleep. And I think sleep is definitely the easiest way to recover that is often overlooked, and for me, I wear blue light blocking sun glasses before bed, and I don't sleep with my phone in my room, and I think those are the things that really help me stay balanced, stay recovered. And then right now I have 2 kids, and so for me, when I come home from training, I have nice distractions to, not really dwell on or celebrate too much what happened in training. And, it's just you put in the work, you write down or you journal or you talk about at the dinner table what you did well. But besides that, it's kind of just really living in the present moment and focusing on what's going on right now that I can really enjoy.
I really love how you said that your biggest part of, having a healthy lifestyle is the mental and the recovery aspect, because I feel like that's also the most easy to skip or avoid or overlook. We're like, oh, I'm short on time. What am I going to skip today? Oh, I'm going to skip that time with my family connecting and talking about the good wins. Or I'm in a rush. I'm going to skip, the restorative breathing because it takes a little more time and energy and effort than just, moving along past the moment and the day. And I think it's really interesting how being slowing down and taking the extra couple of minutes to be intentional truly makes such a massive difference.
Totally.
Especially in this life where everything, right, is social media, it's fast. There's just things that are constantly trying to grab our attention. I think it's really vital to really stay present in the moment.
Totally. And what really struck me about what you talked about was how just taking 5 minutes of those really intense deep breathing can completely rewire how you're thinking and feeling and how your body is functioning. I think that's definitely something we're gonna have to try, because
Yes.
I know that when you're, taking a big test or when a big competition's coming up, it can be so stressful and it can feel like you're so out of control. But knowing that you actually have so much more control over your body with just your breathing is so powerful.
Yeah.
It is very powerful, yes.
What I love is it's not noticeable either. It's like no one's going to know that you're feeling a little stressed or overwhelmed.
Yes, you can do it and nobody notices. And it's just a great practice. And it is something that I think it helps me sleep better. Because like you said, if you have a stressful test coming up, just kind of, it's scientifically proven to reset that nervous system to just go back to its natural state.
I love that. And so a little bit of a pivot in the conversation, but towards the beginning, you mentioned that, especially when you were young, you were quite introverted, which I can relate to. I definitely relate the fact that I recharge on my own or with a small group of people that I know well, rather than in big groups. I know, Anastasia, you're a little more extroverted, but you said that in past interviews that your husband really helped you tap into your more extroverted qualities, which have proven helpful in your athletics as well. So with teens who can struggle to opening up to being social and engaging with new people, can you tell us, how did you go about becoming more extroverted?
Yeah, it was definitely a process. But for me, my husband, he's very extroverted. He knows everyone. He loves to talk to people. And I think for me, what really helped was seeing his take on the world and realizing he and a lot of other people, probably half the world, I don't know the statistics on it, but extroverts say it's just nice to see the world through their lenses. And, I could really see wow, I can make a difference in somebody's life by going up to them and talking to them and, just engaging. And I know that I can do that, knowing that later in the day I can also go home, close my door and have some time to really regain energy. And so it's definitely a process. I think as well for me, part of my introversion, especially when I was younger, was more about fear of what is somebody, am I going to say something wrong? Is somebody going to judge me for the way I look or what I do? And the older I get, the more I realize, it just doesn't matter. And I've been really comfortable just knowing, you know what, I'm trying my best every day. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to be a good person. And, giving my best is all I can ask for myself.
Totally. I think that, knowing as well as like when I come home, I can have a bit of downtime, I can have that recharge time is so important so that you know that, you don't have to conserve your energy the whole time, that maybe you're at a more social event.
And then you don't have to like pick and choose. Like you don't have to be
Exactly.
like either today I'm going to be super, super social or just staying in my room. Like you can have both.
Yes, exactly.
And how would you say exactly has been more extroverted helped you in your athletics?
I would say it's helped me a lot because I haven't been so stressed about it. Like I used to stress so much and worry like, oh my gosh, what if somebody wants to talk to me? What if I need to go to this event and, public speak or, just all these little things. I think the stress of thinking about it really wore on me. Whereas now it's just like, you know what? I know I can do that and I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going to do what I'm doing right now. I'll do that later. I don't need to worry about it right now. So I think a lot of it was just, the worrying and the future predicting that was really holding me back.
Totally. It's really interesting to me how when we worry more about something and we kind of make it happen by just kind of thinking and kind of putting it in motion, when in reality we can public speak just fine and be in social situations just fine, but it's kind of our anxiety that's like trying to keep us safe, but at the same time it's like self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Yes, anxiety is definitely, it comes from a place of, like you said, it tries to keep us safe. But at the same time, we need to realize like, what are we doing this in service of? Like, why am I okay going in public? Why I'm okay talking to people? Like, I want to do that because I want to have friends. I want to engage with people. And so, realizing the bigger why, I think a lot of times helps as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think it's so draining to always be so worried about
Totally.
what's going to happen if this happens, or let's think about the 17 different scenarios that could occur if I have to go public speak or go to a friend's house, or what if someone I don't know is at my friend's house this evening or something like that. It's very draining. And, I think as teens we already have so many worries and uncertainties on our mind that like just being okay with realizing like life is going to happen and being able to like get better at those social skills and then recharge later is important. Especially kind of when you were saying that, I realized like, yes, public speaking is definitely challenging, but the more you do it, that's kind of the only way to improve upon it. So really realizing that like the more you work on your stressor, the less of a stressor it'll get to be.
Yes. And our brains, like you said, like we want to predict the future and we want to know what's going to happen. And often that's where this fear and anxiety comes from. But we can't predict the future. We have no idea. And so, I think for me, that's been a really good realization as well is, I can worry all I want, but what I worry about might not even happen.
And a while ago, in 2016, you went to the Olympics and won a gold medal. So take us through that moment of winning that medal at the 2016 Olympics. And how did you feel in that moment? And how did you feel afterwards? Sometimes, even if it isn't winning a gold medal, after a major milestone, we can feel sad. And even if it's coming back from vacation or your birthday ending or spring break ending, which is coming up soon for us, we can feel sad because this anticipated moment has passed. Did you feel any sadness afterwards? And if so, how did you manage these feelings?
Yeah, I definitely felt sadness. I remember just like laying in bed actually for a few weeks, just like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. And, it was even when I crossed the finish line, I remember feeling I was like in tears. And I don't think it was like joyful tears. I think it was more relief. It was just like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I did that. And it is, it's a lot of pressure I think we put on ourselves. And I was really able to see that only after the fact of how much pressure I actually put on myself. And, it took me a really long time to recharge after that. And, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but like yes, in that moment, it was like happy and joyful, but then it's over. And like, I think it's really important when you have wins or when you accomplish something to celebrate. I think a lot of times we just are like, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next thing? And I think it's really important to take a step back, celebrate, and, know that it likely, that feeling is not going to last, and it should be celebrated. And then also, you should really look back at all the hard work you've put in, even though that moment will go away very quickly. For me, I was sad. I remember I really wanted to start a family. And so it was kind of like this next big thing, but I knew that I also just needed to take time for myself after that big, 4-year push to do that goal.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's interesting how you said there, like, you had so much pressure, obviously, in the Olympics, getting there, preparing for that. What would you say was the moment where you felt the most amount of pressure? Was it like in the 4 years, preparing and training, or was it like right at that moment when you were actually competing?
Or was it like before it even
like
started?
The day before? Like,
just like before you
where
started?
Where was the most pressure at? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a weird feeling. I normally get very nervous before races, and that race I remember like, yes, I was nervous, but I felt more like, you know what, I've done everything I can, and whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And I think that's like the only race I've ever felt like that. So I was very proud of myself for feeling that way. But you can't really, feelings are interesting as well. We can't predict feelings and we can't control feelings, but we can control how we react to those feelings. And the pressure question's interesting. I don't think I really felt it that much leading into the race. I think afterwards, when I just felt so much relief, that's when I realized, like, wow, I didn't realize I was putting so much pressure on myself.
100%. I think teens, especially like in the later years of high school, I think we can really relate to that, because I know that sometimes you're like studying, you're going through your daily routine, and then summer break comes or spring break comes, and all of a sudden, like, I know for me, when I was, Christmas break is like at the end of the semester, winter break's at the end of the semester, there's like only finals afterwards for us, and I had been working so hard up until that point, but I didn't even notice it, kind of like what you said, and then you get to a break, you finish that daily routine of like preparing, studying, training, whatever it is, and you realize, like, wow, I feel so much like calmer and happier and relieved, and I didn't even recognize that, when I was kind of in it.
Because it's like you don't even notice the amount of pressure until you take that pressure off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I think that is why things like the restorative breathing and just trying to be present every day, I think can really help. And it's hard to always recognize things, and I think, especially when I was younger, feelings I would often just push away. If I had a feeling I didn't like, it'd be like, ooh, I'm just going to ignore that. And, now that I have been working more on my mental health, it's more like, okay, you know what? Feelings come and go. They don't last, and they don't define what I do. And so for me, being able to, I think, recognize that now, like, wow, I'm feeling a lot of pressure right now. That's okay. Like, I've worked really hard for this. It's expected that I'm going to feel a lot of pressure. But you know what? Like, even though I'm nervous and scared, I can still do things. I can still move my arms. I can still move my legs. I can still use my brain. And so I think, being able to recognize those things can really help as well, to hopefully not have those, feeling so ignored and missed.
Yes, absolutely. And like you said, like, once you recognize those feelings, you can kind of rationalize. Like, is it rational that I'm feeling nervous? Okay, yes, it's a big moment, kind of high stakes. Or sometimes we're feeling nervous and stressed, but like there's not really a reason. So then we can say, okay, I'm gonna like kind of ignore that and let it go. Like I recognize it, but I'm not really gonna dwell on it.
Totally. And I feel like oftentimes we have these like bad emotions, except they're not actually bad. Feeling sad or stressed isn't a bad emotion. It's just letting us know how, we're genuinely feeling. And so being able to take that into account, but also saying, like, this isn't me. It's just something that's passing through me, and that's okay. I can feel it and I can let it go.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes. And, a lot of times, like you said, they're not bad. And a lot of times they're telling us stuff like, did we not get enough sleep? Are we hungry? Like, what's going on that's really led to this, I think is an important question as well.
Totally. And so training for any sport, regionals at school or the Olympics, is challenging because the end goal can be months or years away. So do you have any tips for remaining motivated to show up every day throughout this process?
Yeah, I think, anything you do, you're not going to be motivated every day, and you're not going to want to, there's certain things that you won't want to do, no matter what your job is or what, you're doing. There's certain things that you like and certain things you don't like. And for me, staying motivated is really all about having that why. And so, yeah, like I kind of touched on this earlier, but having an established why that I can go back to of like, why am I doing this, really helps me. And there's obviously so many days, especially training, where I'm just like, oh, it's not sunny out today, I'm tired, I'm, XYZ. And, the motivation isn't always going to be there, but the discipline is. And I think that comes from, realizing like, who do I want to be, and what are my values, and what is the overarching goal, not only for, in 4 months, but what is the purpose of today, and how does that fit into the bigger goal, and setting not only those big, huge goals, right? Like I had the goal of winning the Olympics, but that was 4 years away. So it's like, okay, what is the goal this year? And what is the goal this month? And what is the goal this week? And I think breaking it down can be really helpful as well.
Totally. Sometimes it can be kind of daunting. It's like, okay, so I want to win the Olympics, but like, how do I get there? So it's like, you gotta like break it down just a little bit so that it's manageable and easy. Like even getting like, I don't know, above 90 or like 100 or an A on like your final can be really difficult to think about. So you can say, okay, maybe I'm going to study more often, or I'm going to review more often, and kind of break it down into manageable steps. Then it's not just like okay, this is my goal, and somehow along the way I'm just gonna get there. And like we were saying, it takes a lot to get to the Olympics and to get a gold medal, and no matter what the sport, it takes a village. So between your coach, your trainers, nutritionists, sports psychologists, family support, every sport requires working with others. And I think a lot of teenagers and youth can relate to this, because even when it comes to college or job applications or writing an exam or challenging moments at school, we're never going through everything alone. So what is your advice for working well with others?
Yeah, we always have a team around us. And I think it's really important to, if you're creating a team, for instance, like, if you're writing an application to go to a school, like find somebody that knows you and knows your voice and, is willing to work with you, whether that's a relative or a teacher that you really trust. And, for me, I really try to build my team around, people that are, I'd say faucets, not drains. So you want people that are like, helping, not taking stuff from us. And I find that as well, with people that I train with, for instance. Like I don't want to be with people every day who are like, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do this. Like you want people that are, and obviously we're all going to have days like that, but you want to have people around you who you enjoy being around and that help lift everyone up, and like, I'm going to help you with X and you're going to help me with Y, and it's kind of this team effort sort of thing. And I think that's really where we grow, and it really helps everyone.
Totally, having those people. I love that. Yeah. Faucets, not drains.
That is such a good metaphor.
Totally.
I've never heard that, but I think that is such a great way to think of it. And sometimes we're in friendships or we're in relationships where, we're spending time with people and we just don't, like, I know I've had this, I know Anastasia's had it, I think everyone's had this before, where you're in a friendship or you're hanging out with someone in a group and you're like, they're just always complaining or they're negative, and you just feel like whenever you're around them, like, there's like this darker filter on. And then when you're with others, or maybe they're just not there, there's like just everything seems like it's going a little bit better and it's a little bit more optimistic, and like we should just be feeling that way. I mean, there's enough challenges as there is. We should be surrounding ourselves with people who make us feel good.
Yes, 100%.
So Gwen, we mentioned at the beginning, and you mentioned that you first, initially after you won your triathlon, you switched your gold medal in the triathlon, you switched sports to marathon, and then now you switched back to triathlon. So what made you switch multiple sports multiple times?
After winning gold in the triathlon, it was something that I felt like I set a big goal, I had a challenge, and I accomplished it. And for me, I felt like if I stayed in triathlon, there wasn't really a goal there that really motivated me and challenged me. And my running, I actually, after college, I wanted to be a professional runner and was told I wasn't good enough. And my running kept continuing to improve in triathlon. I was like, well, maybe now is my chance to do what I wanted to do 10 years ago. And so, yeah, I gave that a shot, and I had a lot of injuries actually running. It was really difficult mentally. I was in pain every day walking and had to have 2 surgeries. And so that was something that was, really a difficult point in my life. And I had my 2 sons, and when I was pregnant with my second, I actually started swimming again. And I was like, you know what? Like, this would be really hard to go back to triathlon. I haven't swam or biked in 4 years. And so it felt like this new and interesting challenge. And for me, it's, we talked about motivation earlier. And for me, my motivation often comes from, what is the big goal? Like, what do I want to do? And having something that seems really difficult is something that really keeps me motivated. And so, for me, it was just always kind of chasing that challenge.
What I think is really awesome about that is sometimes it's a good reminder that we have to take a step back to realize what we really want and what we really like. And so maybe at first you thought that you needed a little pause from triathlon, but then in the end ultimately decided to come back, which I think is something that sometimes we feel so stuck, we're
Totally.
like, if I pursue this, I'm forever going to be, invested in this sport or invested in this, career path or invested in staying friends with this type of person. But you're not committed really to very much. You can usually move around, try different things out. And that's kind of the beauty of life.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, and it's very scary, I think, right? Like, I think a lot of people do stay in something because it's easy in the sense of, it's just routine. And humans like routine. Like often you'll see somebody, like, you'll sit in the same chair every day, or, you'll go to the same stall in the bathroom. Like, the routine is just something, I think for humans, it's, I think we tend to go to it because it's efficient, but just because it's efficient or something that you're used to doesn't mean you have to stick with it. And it's hard and it's scary. I came back to triathlon and, it was really hard. I had races that were horrible. I went from, gold medalist to getting last in a race, and that's humbling, right? And I think a lot of people, that can be scary. And for me, it was like, no, what? I want to overcome this, and I do enjoy it, and I want to, rise to the challenge.
Totally. And I think that routine is so relatable. It's like the unassigned seating plan. It's like everyone always goes to the exact same spot, even though like it's not actually a seating plan. But speaking of those uncertainties that you went through, how did you overcome them? Because that can be so difficult for everyone.
For me, it was mostly just not caring what other people thought. I came back to triathlon racing at 6 months postpartum. I was breastfeeding. Like, I knew where I was at, and I knew that my training was not where it needed to be, but I also wanted to start racing. And so, I knew going into these races that I wasn't going to be the same Gwen I was in 2016 when I won gold, and just kind of, shutting out the outside noise and focusing on, is this the best I have today? And focusing on that was really important for me.
Totally. It can be so difficult when you're just listening always to what other people are saying, and then you're just too scared because, like, what if people are saying something negative, or what if I seem like I did something wrong? When in reality, it really matters about what you want. You're doing this because you want to, and not stopping something just because you're scared of what other people may or may not even say.
And I think that there's also like that spotlight effect where you start to realize like people don't actually care as much as you might think.
No, we definitely care. We think everyone cares more about what we're doing than they actually do. Yeah.
And that's I feel like sometimes that seems a little sad. It's like, oh, I wish people cared. But then I'm like, wait, it's a good thing because, if I want to try something or do something or experiment in some way, be it, with what I'm interested in or who I'm hanging out with, who I'm sitting with at lunch, anything like that, like people don't get as invested in your life as you think.
You can feel like everyone's like, oh, but like the whole grade is going to like be like, why are they doing that? When in reality, like,
yes, exactly. exactly. And I think, having those people around you as well, like, my family, they just want to see me happy. And I think, that's your friends too, like your true friends and your family and the people that are close to you, they just want to see you happy. So they don't really care how you do or what you do. They just want you to pursue what's going to make you happy. And so realizing that, I think, as well, is really important.
And so, Gwen, life can get repetitive, especially when you're like training daily or you've got the same job or you're going to school, you have the same things kind of every single day, the same routine, the same hours. And a key aspect of happiness is having fun. And this is also a key to, having our highest performance and our best performance. So how do you find fun in everyday life?
Yeah, for me, especially in training, it's just training with other people. So I definitely see that as my social time. If I go for a run with somebody or a bike ride or swim with somebody, I see that as like I'm getting my training in, but it's also my social time. And for me, it's just all about surrounding myself with other people.
I love
Totally.
it.
I mean, I know that I love spending time with Mercedes and our family. Sometimes it's just nice to do something with other people.
Especially that you're like both so interested in the same thing.
Exactly, totally. And I know that we talked a little bit earlier on about your injuries and what an incredibly hard time you went through then. So how did you keep your spirits up during that time and when you weren't really able to train as much and do what you loved?
That was a really hard time. I remember my oldest now, Stanley, he was young at the time, like 2 or 3, and like I couldn't get up and play with him. Like it hurt to walk, and like I'd be like, oh, I want to read you a book, but I'm in too much pain to go get it. Like everyday life was really hard, and injury is the hardest thing in sport because you want to be able to do, you can't do what you want to do, right? You have all these goals, you have this motivation, you have everything, and you're just stopped by something that you can't really control. And, for me, it was really my husband, my kid, my family, the people that really cared about me was really what got me through. It's just, I always say injury is a part of sport, and it's the hardest part, and you just kind of have to get through it, and it feels so long when you're going through it, and then it's like 3 or 4 months later, and you're like, wow, I can't believe that was so long ago. Like, so it goes really slow when you're in it, but then after the fact, you're able to look back and be like, oh, that wasn't actually that long. And so, as well, like having something outside of sport, talking about like you not being defined by what you do is really important. So, during that time, it's like, oh, what I want to draw or I want to do something else, and really picking up a different hobby to kind of fill that gap.
No, totally. I remember at just like the beginning of this year, I was playing volleyball with my friends and I really injured my thumb. And so I had like a splint on like my hand until like January, I think. It was a really long time. Yeah. And it really hurt to move my thumb. And I couldn't do anything, so
you use your thumb for everything.
Exactly. So I would like struggle like typing on my laptop and stuff, and I would like struggle like writing in class. So sometimes I would just take it off. I would just be like, I'm using my thumb for this. But I remember I was really sad because I wouldn't be able to like play volleyball with my friends or like do anything whatsoever in gym class except for like fitness testing. So it definitely was a bit hard, but eventually I got my splint off, and now I'm doing a lot better.
It makes you more grateful.
Totally,
once
you're
you're
able
back
to
from
be
that.
like, I really appreciate all the time playing volleyball with my friends now. Or I actually appreciate, doing gym a lot more now because you had that kind of taken away from you. Now you're able to say, I actually really like doing this.
Yeah, we don't often appreciate our health as much as we should, whether it be physical or mental or, even just getting like a sickness. We often just take that for granted. And so, that is one good thing that comes out of injuries.
Exactly.
Totally, that gratitude.
Exactly. And so many of us are quite competitive, be it in music, athletics, art, academics, even getting a certain job. So do you find that you deal with more internal competition, like constantly wanting to outdo and outperform your past achievements, or more so external competition and like comparing yourself to other people that you're competing against? And what's your advice for managing this?
I'm definitely more internally motivated. I always want to do better, and I always want to, this kind of goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning, I think, where I'm like, I always am like, I could have done that better. I should have done that better. And I don't appreciate the things that I did well. And so, yeah, that's, for me, it's really just like appreciating the things I did well and also celebrating successes as they come. That's something that I often am like, oh yeah, like I won, that's fine, we can move on. But like, no, like you should actually really celebrate, doing things well. And, could be going out to dinner with loved ones. It could be buying yourself a new pair of jeans or like, something just like to really celebrate, I think is important.
100%. You got to celebrate those big wins like winning a race or even just, getting through a really tough training session or study session, just getting through that. I mean, it's all worthy of celebration, and just noticing that is so important. It can make such a big impact on us as well.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's so important because, I think there's that whole concept of like we talk about external competition. You want to outdo people, get the job or win the award or whatever it is. But then it becomes an internal competition.
Totally.
And on a deeper level, it's like I want to do better than myself and I want to score better. I want to, have better form than I did last year or whatever it is.
You just want to like go up in like a linear,
but the problem
better
is
every year.
That if we keep competing against ourselves, like, yes, that's probably better to some degree than competing against others, but it's important to still appreciate yourself for who you are at all times.
Exactly. You're not beating yourself up for having a bad day. Just because this time last year you're having a good day doesn't mean that you have to have an even better day.
Yeah, you can't get better every day. And we like to think of progress as linear, but it hardly ever is linear. It's a lot of ups and downs. And I think it is like, that's why I think going back to like, what's your why and what are you trying to get? Like, are you trying to, for me, like be brave, be curious, be creative. Like these are things that I'm working on that, I can improve upon every day, but it's not necessarily going to show in my results maybe on race day. And so, having those other goals I think are well, and having, the external competition always brings out the best in me for sure. Like I definitely compete better and am able to get more out of myself when there's other people to compete against. And at the same time, also I know like I can't control what they do. And so, having that competition I think is great, and for us and for the world, right? Like everybody's better when we have competition that's external, but at the same time you can't judge yourself off of others because we can't control what they do and we can only control what we do.
Bring a small bit of happiness to your home with our Happiness Activity Box mission, Small Bits of Happiness. This Happiness Activity Box has got 100 unique, fun things to do to feel happier daily, including conversation starters, reflection prompts, recipes, DIYs, and beyond. So Anastasia, why don't you pick a card and let's do it together. Just pick out a card. You can do it around the dinner table, in the mornings, with family, with friends, solo, to learn more about yourself.
So this is listen to an upbeat song. And the best part about it is that there's actually a QR code on the card, and so if you want to listen to some music but you're not exactly sure what song to put on, you can scan the QR code and it'll take you to a playlist, which will definitely boost your mood.
And a lot of the cards have QR codes taking you to our website to explain more about why this activity brings you happiness. And then once you listen to the song, we're going to place it behind our Mission Accomplished tab so that you can keep track of all of your missions as you accomplish them. You can shop the Mission Small Bits of Happiness activity box now. It makes for a great gift as well as a great activity for people of all ages to connect with your family or with yourself, linked in the show notes.
Now let's get back to the episode. Exactly. I love that kind of mindset. Like, it's good to be motivated by other people, but we can't spend all our time comparing ourselves to everyone else's results and how they're doing.
Yeah, you never know what someone else is going through, what they've been through, or how long they've been practicing for,
totally.
Anything like that.
And we love to see you balancing being such an amazing and incredible athlete as well as being a loving and engaged mom. So what are you currently working on or have on the horizon?
Yeah. Something, as an athlete mom, I really try to be present in whatever I'm doing. So like when I'm in my kids, I'm all in with my kids and I'm not thinking about training, and same thing goes when I'm training. So when I'm training, I'm not trying not to think about like, what do my kids need? What do they need for lunch? Like I'm trying to keep those things separate. And I think that really helps me. And yeah, currently I'm working towards, I have some races coming up in May. that I'm super excited about. So just training here in my hometown where I live in Colorado and spending time with the kids.
I love that. How old are your kids?
I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Oh, that's adorable. I love that. And we love like following along on social media. And so what would you say, Gwen, is one belief or behavior that has positively contributed to your life in the past year?
I would say probably being creative is one thing that I'm really working on. That's really enhanced my life. It's allowed me to make quicker decisions. And, I think, a lot of times when we make decisions, I'm someone who I used to, like in high school, I'd make pros and cons lists and I'd try to like really figure out like what is the correct answer. And the older I get, the more I realize, we don't know what the correct answer is because we can't predict the future. So it's very much, what I'm going to make the best decision I can in this moment with the information I have. And you can't like go back afterwards and say, I should have made a different decision because you didn't have the information you have now that back then. And so, being creative, I think has really helped me make quicker decisions and allowed me to, not, I guess, waste energy thinking about those things. And it also, I think just helps me with my family too. Like sometimes we'll do dance parties and I'm like, okay, kids, let's dance like peanut butter. Now let's dance like water. Now let's, just like thinking of different things and really making my brain and work in different ways is something that I've really enjoyed.
I love that because it's so important to kind of infuse that kind of fun into our lives almost by like thinking outside the box.
Totally.
I think that's something that we get told a lot when we're like little and, in elementary school, our teachers are like, think outside of the box. And then as you get older, you kind of stop having that idea and that reinforcement. But it's so important to constantly be thinking differently because, that's kind of where that excitement comes from. And also like not limiting yourself. Like sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, imagine if I did that, or imagine if like we did that like on a weekend with our family, or imagine if I cooked that, to enjoy with my friends. And then I'm realizing like I could do that. Like
Exactly.
what's stopping you from
I love like realizing, and I think it's also started to become like a trend online, but it's like using free will. It's like you don't actually have to do something a certain way. Like we have free will, we can do it really however we like.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what is something that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
I love quality time with the people I love. So, spending quality time with my husband is something that I do every day that brings me a lot of joy. And he likes to sauna. We have a sauna. And so a lot of times it's just spending like 10 minutes in the sauna with him.
Getting some unwinding and social time kind of in one go. I love it.
Exactly. Connecting and just talking about the day and enjoying it with a loved one.
Totally. I think going out of our way to, engage with our loved ones, like that is so important to our happiness and to having positive relationships. Like if you don't make the time, even when you're busy, I think that's such a great, like obviously you're very busy, you're training for your races, but you still find time to connect with your loved ones by kind of combining, your training with your friends or you're relaxing with your husband. And so I love that.
Exactly. And we just recently went to go pick up our dad from the airport and we all came together and he was so touched about the fact that we were all coming to pick him up, and it was so nice to
those little things make a huge difference. I just think about some things like my 2-year-old can't do much, but the other day I walked in and my hair was crazy and he's like, mommy, hair looked nice, and it was just like this little moment and I'm like, oh, like he's just thinking of me, and that's what you guys were doing. You're thinking of your dad, and they really do make a huge impact on family members and loved ones.
Oh, that's so cute. That's
adorable. It's so true, exactly. So what is one piece of advice that you wish you could give to your teen self?
Don't worry so much about what other people think. I think that's kind of a theme of this podcast maybe, but I worried too much about trying to please others and trying to figure out like what do they want. And yes, it's important to have friends and to help them in what they need, but it's also really important to realize that like what you're doing is important, and other people who are judging you for what you're doing isn't a good thing.
Totally. That's so important. It can be so hard. It can be so easy to also be like, oh, like, this person thinks this and like that outside noise, but in the end, it doesn't really matter what.
Exactly. And so often what someone else thinks of you is so much based off of what they think of themselves or what they're dealing with. It's not even about you. And so really just, releasing that stress.
Totally. And so we love to ask this, what is a motivational quote that you love and remember? And if you have one, why?
Oh boy, I don't have it memorized, but it's the stone cutter quote, and basically it's a stone cutter who's chipping away at this stone every day, and he's working and working and working, and he does it for 2,000 days in a row and nothing happens, but on the 2,001st day he chips and finally a piece breaks off. And I think that's something that for me is I'm reminded of daily in what I do, and like I'm working every day to be a better person, to improve how I can compete on the world level. And those are things that I don't think I see every day. I definitely don't see every day, but I know that I'm putting in the work, and that one day I will see those results.
I love that. Yeah, just keep going. And, that long-term gratification I think has also been kind of something we've talked a lot about in this episode, but like not focusing on the short term, but focusing on the long term, the like overarching goals. Like that is really what it's all about. Thank you so much, Gwen, for all your incredible insights today. If our audience wants to keep up and learn more about you, where would it be the best place for them to find you?
I would say Instagram, just at Gwen Jorgensen would be the best way. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask me in my DMs.
Amazing. We'll have your Instagram account linked in our show notes, and we just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It's been so inspirational to speak with you, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness.
And thank you so much to Gwen Jorgensen for joining us today. She is such an inspiration. She does not give up, and she has truly achieved so many incredible things in athletics and in sport. Anastasia, what is your biggest takeaway from today?
I think my biggest takeaway has definitely been her amazing metaphor of faucet and drain, because you don't want to surround yourself with people who just kind of steal all your energy away, or like that big cloud that kind of makes everything happy seem kind of more sad. So focusing on like that faucet, those people that bring the energy, make you feel happy. How about you?
I love that metaphor, and one of my biggest takeaways from today and from Gwen is the importance of not caring what others think of you. We can't do everything for others. We don't know what they're thinking or why they're thinking it. So instead, do what fuels you, do what excites you, and just don't be afraid of what others think, and don't let that stop you from pursuing your goals or feeling happy. If you enjoyed this episode, we think you would love our episode with Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, the beach volleyball Olympic duo from Team USA that went to Paris Olympics 2024. They talk all about hacks to teamwork, how they collaborate through tough times and pressures, as well as their experiences in preparing for the Paris 2024 Olympics.
Like we said, we were so laser focused that it was hard for us to let anybody in our circle of, you're going to be a distraction. You're not going to be able to let me achieve my goals. But it really does. It takes an army to be able to qualify for the Olympics or reach a really important goal.
You can listen to their episode now. It's linked in the show notes.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review from wherever you're listening. It really helps us out, and we really appreciate it.
Also, be sure to join our happiness family. It's completely free. It really helps us out, and we would love to have you in our happiness family. And plus, if you join, you'll never miss another episode of our podcast. You can join by following Hack Your Happiness on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now.
See you next time.